Starter Deck Protector of Light and Starter Deck Hero of Hope. The biggest question that you may have is which one of the two should you be getting? And the answer is actually pretty simple. You want to get both of them and combine their powers together, because if you're new to the Digimon card game, today I'm going to help you begin your journey by talking about everything you need to know for both of these starter decks. And let's go ahead and open them up and check out the cards.
Here are the two new starter decks, and we're opening both of them in the same video today. Well, just before we're going to crack open this, quickly have you guys check out these status counters, which I made for the very first time. These are made of like hard, nice, high quality acrylic, so they're very durable. But these are really important to help you guys, especially new players, to keep track of effects that are certainly happening and reminders, which are really, really helpful. We got blockers, stun, any status protection as well. Must attack, security -1, security +1, DP counters, the basics. So make sure to go to the AVAULT store and grab your very own. I really appreciate the support. And yeah, along you can also get the Destined Partners playmat there with the bundle, which is only available for a limited time. So definitely be sure to grab them while stocks last. So here in the starter deck, we have usually a kind of like a paper playmat that we can quickly check out here. I'm gonna say this every time. They should really print like rubber cloth versions or just rubber versions of these playmats so people can have access to them, which is gonna be really cool. And of course some just basic like sort of like how to play rules and guide right here, teaching you all the basics. So definitely read that for yourselves as well, guys. But most importantly, let's go ahead and talk and look at the cards, really. So this is a pretty much like a 50 card deck, and Koromon is our Digi-Egg card, and normally you get 4 copies of this. And what it does, it just gives you extra 1000 DP as long as it's a venture trait. We have Biomon right here, which is the main searcher of the deck to help you grab certain pieces that you need, giving you the DP buff. Fantastic. Definitely really important, sort of like rookie card that you always need. Bergermon, being able to like Digivolve into your level 5s for free. And this extra 2000 DP, just like Biomon. In order to Digivolve, you need to make sure that you have like pretty much like 3 color tamers, or tamers with 3 different colors with a venture trait. And then as it goes up, it has Garudamon, giving you security attack +1, DP buffs as well, which of course this is where you can use your status counters to remind yourself that you got the DP buffs. And pretty much I think all these level 5s have the exact same effect when another Digimon digivolves or you play it and it has a venture trait. You get Alliance, so you can actually attack and deal a lot of damage into your opponents. And it's inheritable, it's just a simple alliance. So I feel like the whole strategy is really trying to focus on level 5s as much as possible so that you can attack with them. Gatomon right here. Security Digimon pretty much gets to like play itself out, and then giving security attack -1 to 2 of your opponent's Digimon, and with DP reduction. Okay. So I think now we're moving into the SRs, which is Angelwomon. When you digivolve into her, you pretty much can digivolve another adventure trait Digimon that you have on the side of the board. Very shiny, very lovely, fantastic artwork as well. And just like all the level 5s, like the second last effect and the inherit effect is always the same. So here, just like standard, every starter that you get 2 copies of the SR cards. And we'll talk about more about that just in a bit. But now we're moving into the other line, which is the Tentomon line. This one is a in archetype, but also just a generic staple to floodgate your opponents from being able to reduce their Digivolution costs. And we have 4 copies of that. Kabuterimon. Okay, so this one I believe is the one that pretty much helps you play a tamer, as long as you have 1 or fewer when you digivolve into it, which is nice because it's going to be a very tamer-centric heavy deck overall. And having piercing so that you deal damage as you're attacking over your opponent's Digimon, you still get to deal damage into your opponent's security at the same time. Mega Kabuterimon is really good. I like it a lot because you get to unsuspend and suspend down stuff as well as soon as you get into it. That's really its main usage, and being able to suspend means you can dish out additional attacks, which is really good. And that pretty much has like no requirement whatsoever. You straight up just unsuspend right away. Now we have Agumon being able to digivolve on top of red or black. That is a level 2, so you can play in like red based decks with Agumon and synergize with Greymon stuff, which is cool. This one is mainly to let you warp into your War Greymon. And then as long as if your opponent has a Digimon with 10,000 DP or more, or you have 3 or more total tamers with 3 different colors. Not 3 total tamers. As long as your tamers add up to 3 or more total colors, that's when you can warp for the 4 cost. Inheritable gives you reboot, so it comes in handy as well. Now we have War Greymon Ace, which is the main card art of the cover deck right here. And this one is that you can Digivolve for level 4, for 4 costs on top of level 5, that's black or red. Or otherwise you can Digivolve for 3 costs on top of anything that is hero or adventure trait, which is really cool because then you can get into it way quicker. It's an Ace card itself, which is Blast Digivolve, and that's when you can counter your opponent's attacks. When they attack into you during the counter timing, that's where you can Evo into these guys for free. And you get a lot of really powerful effects because for every 2 colors you have in your tamers, you pretty much get to give one of your own Digimon immunity against your opponent's Digimon effects. And this is where you can use the protection status counter for that as well. When you Digivolve and when you attack, which is not once per turn, you get to delete your opponent's lowest DP Digimon. So a lot of removal, but when it comes to countering and going into your Ace cards, there's a lot of drawbacks, which, well, not a lot of drawbacks really. The only drawback is really the Ace Overflow -4, so you end up giving your opponent 4 memory to work with if you lose this card from the field, essentially. Now we're moving into our tamers. We've got Sora and Kari, which a lot of them do similar things as well, because as long as you have an adventure trait at the start of the main, you gain a memory, which is really important. And when you play a adventure trait from your hand, you get to reduce the play cost by 1. So setting them up as much as you can and as quickly as you can is really core to your vital strategy. And then we have Tai and Izzy, which is pretty much also the same way where you get to reduce your play cost of your adventure traits. But instead this one, it gives all your adventure trait blocker, which is really good for defense, if you ever want to go for that strategy as well. Now we have Our Courage United, which is like a dedicated option card. One of the cool things about these option cards now is that while you have a Digimon or Tamer with the adventure trait on the field, you get to ignore the color requirements. Now, field specifically means that it includes the battle area and the breeding area. So if you meet that requirement of having that trait in your breeding as well, you can use this option without meeting the color requirements. That's really nice of this because now it's very archetype focused. You don't necessarily need to run like color-based memory boosts to search and find your pieces because the deck of this colors is pretty much like includes everything in the game. And you want to be able to, have that kind of consistency to find your stuff. And really all it does is draws you 2 cards. And that's good. So you can find your pieces, and it has that delay effect, letting you play stuff out when something leaves the battle area, or would leave the battle area. So pretty good, pretty good. And of course there's like 4 copies of this in total. Island of Adventure, a 2-cost card that you can kind of like set in your security. Kind of interesting thing is that notice how this card says security, and the color coded is like purple-ish or pinkish, whereas this says security. There's a different like meaning behind it for you guys who are new players that don't know. The blue security means that when it's checked in security, you get to activate the card effect, whereas this is not a security effect in terms of when it's checked. It's more as if once you use the second effect of like placing it to the top of your security card, it's like a field spell kind of like constant effect that applies forever, basically, as long as it stays face up in the security. So keep in mind, guys, like the pink ones right here are specifically for face up security cards in order for it to apply that effect, meaning that all your level 3 or higher Digimon gain extra 2000 AP, which is a lot of power buff for sure. Hopefully I explained that well. But now we're moving into some reprints, and these are some fantastic Avatar cards. Not only just great reprints, but they're pretty much like the basic staple cards that you really need for many decks. Although you don't really need to play them in this deck, because they're not really going to work, because they're more color restricted. But first off, we have Red Scramble. We can see Agumon, Shoutmon, Coronamon, and Gammamon. And yeah, these artworks are fantastic. And honestly, as a collector, these are going to look really nice on the binder for sure. Blue Scramble here as well. Yellow Scramble, Green Scramble. These are really important cards that you actually want to have, so that when you play any other like red-based decks, any color-based decks, you can easily sort of like Digivolve for your cost reductions, and it gives you that delay effect so that you can make comeback plays, which is really, really important. So yeah, certain decks do really need to run these, and they're just really, really good. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and that is pretty much here with the other like key code cards there. And let's go ahead and open up the other one. So we have Hero of Hope. The first one is Protector of Light. And just like before, we have the paper playmat. I'll just quickly show you guys if I can. But it's pretty much Gabumon and Metalgar, purple. Very nice. And then exactly the same. It's like a pamphlet, like a little booklet or whatever kind of thing that kind of talks about the same rules, I'm pretty sure. So let's go again and talk about the cards. Now, this is basically the other Digidestins. And the original 8. This one is that on deletion you pretty much get to grab anything that's adventure trait, Digimon cards specifically, so you can recur your resources, which I think it's probably the better egg to go. Also, just because of the artwork being way nicer, how Sunomon's upside down is just very adorable. Honestly, very, very cute. We have Gomamon. This one is that your opponent can't gain memory other than by tamer effects. So that's a memory flight gate, which we already kind of have generally in sort of like the card pool, but this is specifically for adventure trait as well. So this gives the deck quite some nice competitive edges when it comes to shifting against the meta, playing these flight gate rookies that you need to counter against specific decks and, you know, be a little bit more competitive, basically. Ikakumon, this is the security Digimon. You know, once you check it in security, remember guys, the blue color code right here, or the keyword, is meaning that like when it gets attacked into security, that's when you activate it. So you get to play it out after the battle. This basically trash sources and you get to stun something, and it gives you a bit of draw power if you have like running low on cards in your hand in the early stages, which is great. And then we have Zudomon, which is really good removal as well because it strips sources off your opponent's Digivolution cards, and then you get to bounce something with one or fewer sources. Now this is pretty cool because usually bouncing effects from blue really come from the effect of requiring your opponent to have no sources. And I think this is one of the rare few kinds that actually say that you can just bounce something that has one or fewer. So it's easier to meet that requirement in a way where you can bounce pretty much like, yeah, anything, as long as you strip their sources. Just like all the other level 5s, you know, you have that alliance kind of capability, which is cool. And then we have Angemon here. Similar to the Kabuterimon, which we saw from the Protector of Light deck, where it pretty much helps you play out your tamers. And you just have to make sure that you have one or fewer. So, you know, really good early card to help you get going. Different to piercing, you get DP reduction when it comes to attacking with it instead. Now we have Magna Angemon, which is the super rare. And this one pretty much like kind of like sends your opponent's Digimon into the security, which is also a very unique form of removal. And there's not a lot of protection around that generally. So aside from like, you know, being completely immune to Digimon effects, so then that wouldn't apply. But like if anything that prevents them from bouncing, de-digivolving, or being deleted, this plays around that, which is really cool. And yeah, 2 copies of Palmon, which is a very important card, I think, as well. Similar to Biomon, Biomon was the searcher. This is the draw engine card. So as soon as you play it out by trashing a card with adventure trait, which means a card with adventure trait could be even like not only just a Digimon, it can be a tamer, it can be an option. As long as that card has that trait on it, you can pretty much draw 2 cards. And All Twins extra 1000 DP is pretty good too. So yeah, 4 of that for sure. Togemon, which pretty much does exactly the same as what Bergermon does, but the only difference is the inheritable, giving you that extra 1000 DP. And these are really, really strong champions because they pretty much let you like go into your level 5s for free instantly, which is insane. And yeah, there's 4 copies of that one. Lilymon pretty much suspends down like a bunch of stuff as long as there's 5000 DP or less. Then for every 2 colors your tamers have, you return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom deck. This one doesn't have that DP restriction. So even it can be a 13k body on the board that's suspended, and if you can bottom deck it, you can go ahead and bottom deck it if you fulfill those requirements. So that's really good. And there's 4 of them. Now we move into the main, like, I guess like the main cover card, I guess, sort of, or Gabumon specifically. Just like Agumon, this one can warp. Same condition, your opponent needs to have a 10,000 DP or more Digimon on their board, or if you have tamers with 3 or more total colors on the board too. And yeah, you pay the 4 cost to go straight into Melgar. This one, when attacking, draws you and trashes one, which is really good synergy with the actual Melgar, which we'll talk about just in a bit as well, because here we are with Metal Garurumon Ace. Just like War Grey, how you can kind of digivolve on top of like 2 different colors for level 5, but this one can also specifically digivolve on top of Adventure Trait for 3 costs. Not Hero though, so this is very specifically for the Adventure Trait. Just like before, you know, Hand Blast counter against your opponents when they attack into you, and when you go into this guy, you can pretty much bottom deck your opponent's level 4 lower Digimon, and then for every 2 colors like your tamers have, you get to add 1 extra level. So if you have like 4 different color tamers, you can pretty much bottom deck a level 6 very easily. As you synergize with the Gabumon, which I mentioned earlier, as you attack, you draw 1 and trash 1, you get to play something back from trash as well once per turn. You get to play a level 4 lower Digimon card. And that's really strong, because we've seen what Togemon and Bergermon can do. You can instantly play them back from the trash, and then immediately evo into level 5 for free once you have those tamers set up. Another really neat thing that I want to share with you guys is that you can actually combine the artworks of both War Greymon and Metal Garurumon Ace together and put them together side by side so that they actually complete into like a full art kind of thing. Digimon's always known to sort of do this really well, and it really excites me every time, and I always look forward to more. We got Jokido and Mimi, very similar to the other tamers, pretty much I think it's like Sora and Kari, because you just gain a memory as long as you have a Adventure Trait, start a main, and then you also just reduce your play costs. So yeah. Then we got Matt with TK. It also reduces your play cost, but ultimately it gives your level 5 or higher Digimon rush so that you can attack immediately when you play them out, which is really, really good because it gives you all that aggression to finish games off and do a lot of damage against your opponents. Now we have Believe in Our Friendship. Just like the other option card which we saw earlier from the War Greymon starter deck, is that as long as you have an Adventure Trait on the field, once again, meaning that it counts for both battle area and breeding area, you don't need to meet the color requirements. This is more important, I'd say. This is a searching card, and it basically reveals the top 3 cards, and you get to add 1 Adventure Trait card among them. Any Adventure Trait. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, any card in this deck pretty much has the Adventure Trait, including the options that you can see right here. So that you can actually grab itself. You can use this to discard from Palmon's effect to draw 2. Lots of synergy, really important. Delay, you simply just gain 2 memory, and having more memory makes more plays. So I think this is a must-have as a 4 of no matter what you're doing, because it's a very important starting card you want to see. Now we have Genai's House. While you have no face-up Genai's House and security, because you ignore the color requirements, security effects, just like I explained before with the Island Adventure one, this is like a face-up security effect, so it's like a continuous effect that you kind of get. Extra 3000 DP just like that other one as well. So this one's kind of interesting because this one places at the bottom of your security card, so that if you have both of them together, one will be at the top and one will be at the bottom, and then you pretty much have like a 6k buff. I'm not too sure about this card. Seems okay, but gotta try it out to find out. Now we'll move on to the staple cards, which are again a repeat of the scramble cards, which do exactly the same thing but with completely different artwork, as you guys can see. From the other starter deck we saw Agumon, but this time we have Biyomon, and again, fantastic stuff that you want to collect them all together, to be honest, and put them all in a nice binder. Wow. These are the best things to come out of these starter decks, honestly. Black Scramble right here, Purple Scramble, and again, really important stable cards exactly just like there. So that pretty much is it for the opening, but I'm going to open up another copy of each of the deck, because generally in order to build the sort of upgraded power build, or a little bit to ensure that you have access to multiple copies of cards, you guys know that you want to make sure you have your play sets just in case. Although it's not entirely necessary, you guys can just buy your singles, but there's also a chance that we can pull some high rarity cards in here, which hopefully we might be lucky enough to show you guys. But what I'm trying to say is that, you can see like Agumon, there's actually a very different alt art that you can actually potentially pull, which is really, really cool. But I'd love to show you guys. And just because you guys can see that, you only get 2 War Greymon Aces in a starter deck regularly, which is why I want to get 2 to get the playset. Although you don't necessarily need a playset for depending on the kind of build you're trying to go for. But here's another example. If you ever do want to play more Ties and Izzies in your deck, you need 4 copies of them too. And also, actually, by getting 2 of each to starter deck, you guarantee yourself a playset of all these Scramble basic cards, which is really, really cool. So unfortunately, no high rarity pull card there for this one. But I'm also going to quickly now open up the Metal Guard deck once again, just to see if I can get the card there. And same reason with the SR, like, you know, these shiny cards right here with Magna Angemon, there's only 2 copies, so you want to make sure that you have access to like a total of 4. I think Melgar Ace is the most important one, just because I think it's probably the better one out of the 2. Actually, they're both pretty good, but yeah, I think I would focus more on Melgar, so I definitely want my playsets of that. And, you know, Matt and TK are really good too. Another thing that you get for participating in like your release events is that you get these welcome tamer packs, and they're pretty much like foil upgrade versions of the cards inside the set as well, which is really cool. So let's quickly open them and see. So the difference is that you can see the foiling looks pretty similar, but the only difference is that you actually get like a stamp right here with the Digimon card game, which is really nice, a whole rebranding and everything like that. So let's quickly keep going. And Gomamon, okay. Fantastic for collectors, honestly, or anyone who wants to like bling out and max rarity their decks. Ooh, Garudamon. Cool. I'm not too sure if they look a little bit different, but they may look a little bit shinier, but they could be the same, really. It's just with the stamp. Ooh, and Sunomon. This is a nice one because like with the Digi-Egg cards, normally it's just non-foil, so it's not shiny, but now it's like foiled, so it looks like it's, you know, higher rarity and it looks cooler as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and now talk about the budget build. With so many different cards that came out from both starter decks, it can be overwhelming at first because there's a lot to choose from. But that's a nice thing for advanced players because you can really tailor the build to your own liking based on your playstyle and really get creative with it. But for those who are new to the card game, don't worry, I got you covered because I developed a build that is simple and easy to understand, which has a win condition to help you achieve as quickly as possible. Building a deck normally comes from the boss Digimon card that you want to focus on, which is going to be a level 6. So there's War Greymon and Metal Garurumon to choose from, which I decided to go for Metal Garurumon as my main strategy. And that's because I want to focus more on an aggressive playstyle to attack the opponent's security as quickly as possible to win games fast. And I'll talk about it more as we get into the actual card itself. Normally for the card game, you need to follow color requirements to help you digivolve your Digimon up your Digivolution line. But that's exactly where the alternative Digivolution requirement mechanic comes in, which you can see the black box text allows you to digivolve into any adventure trait. The whole idea is to play out your level 4s, which lets you digivolve into your level 5s for free so that you can climb into level 6s as quickly as possible to advance your game win condition. Now normally I would recommend getting 2 copies of each starter deck to ensure that you have a playset, which is 4 copies of every single card that you need, which is mainly the SRs and the rare cards, which we saw from the opening earlier. But to be honest, you can kind of get away easily this time by only having 1 of each, and because for the rest of the cards, you can just easily grab them as individual to make it even more budget friendly. In Digimon, you need to have exactly 50 cards for your main deck, and you cannot have any more or less compared to that amount. And this usually includes abundance of Digimon, Tamer, and option cards. As for the Digi-Egg deck, which comes in the side, you can have anywhere between 0 to 5 cards. But keep in mind, for both decks, you're only allowed to have a maximum of 4 copies of each identical card, which you can find on the set code, which is located next to its name. So let's go ahead and show you the build that I came up with. Starting with Digi-Egg cards, I'm running 4 copies of Sunomon. I mainly want to focus on this because when my Digimon is deleted, I can grab any piece that I want back from the trash to recur my resources so that I can pick out anything that I need later on to bridge into my combos. This is generally where I recommend new players to stick to 4 copies of the same egg to ensure consistency within the game plan. As you become more familiar with the game over time, that is when you can explore different strategies that utilizes the 5th egg slot. Now let's talk about level 3s, where you generally want to include anywhere between 10 to 14 cards, and this is the largest number that you would include because these are your base starting cards to help you digivolve and get going. As we move up to the levels 4s and 5s, this is where the number of cards will start decreasing, creating kind of like a ladder to give you the perfect ratio amount to ensure that you can consistently execute your game plan and climb up your stack. The best rookie that I think for the deck is actually Biyomon, which you want to be running 4 copies and no less. And that is because it is your main searcher of your deck to grab anything that you need, being a Digimon, as well as a Tamer or option card that as long has the adventure trait. And its inherent effect of giving you extra 2000 DP ensures you power up your Digimon to either battle against your opponents or safely swing into their security.
As for the second best rookie that I think all you guys should be running is the 4 copies of Palmon, and no less as well. Similar to Biomon, this is another method to gather as many cards as you can, but instead of searching, this trashes the adventure trait card from your hand to draw 2. And in its inherent effect gives you extra 1000 DP, which happens all turns. Since I mentioned my main strategy is to focus on Metal Garurumon, that is why I'm running 3 copies of the Gabumon, which allows me to warp into it once I fulfill its conditions. Also, with its inherent effect helps me set up the draw and trash that I need so that I can synergize with the Metal Garurumon's when attacking effect. Even though I'm mainly focusing on Metal Garurumon, I still decide to include at least 1 copy of Agumon in the end just because I am playing Wargreymon Ace as my subsidiary level 6. For the same reason as Gabumon, you can potentially warp into your Wargreymon and it provides you an inherent effect reboot which allows you to unsuspend during your opponent's unsuspend phase too. And this is generally a really good effect to prevent your opponents from attacking into your Digimon because they become unsuspended. For level 4s, you want to run anywhere between 8 to 12 cards, and to start off with that, I'm running 4 copies of Bergermon, which allows me to Digivolve straight into a level 5 for free as long as I have Tamers with 3 different colors or more. Just like Biomon, its inherent effect gives extra 2000 DP, and for the same reason of Bergermon, that's why I'm also running 3 copies of Togemon doing exactly the same thing, and with its inherent effect just like Palmon to give you extra 1000 DP during all turns. And then I'm running 3 copies of Kabuterimon, which allows me to play out my Tamers for free, which is a really important part of the core strategy as long as I have 1 or fewer Tamers when I Digivolve into it. Its inherent effect is Piercing, which allows you to deal damage into your opponent's security even when you take down the opponent's Digimon, giving you a lot of offensive value. For level 5s, you want to run somewhere between 6 to 9 cards, but this is where it gets a little bit tricky because now you have lesser space and there's a lot of different cards to choose from. So since I mentioned I want to focus more on an aggressive and offensive approach with my strategy, I decided to go with 3 copies of Mega Kabuterimon. Being able to unsuspend means that you can make another attack in the same turn, and by suspending down your opponent's Digimon, this is where it gives you the opportunity to attack over them by removing it. And if you ever have Kabuterimon with its inherent effect like I mentioned earlier, this is where you can also pierce for damage at the same time. And speaking of damage, that is also why I'm running 2 copies of Garudamon to gain security attack +1 and extra DP buff to make our stack even stronger. For the rest of the level 5s, I want to have a little bit more of control and removal, which is why I included 2 copies of Lilymon. Its effect helps you suspend down the opponent's weaker Digimon, but also allows you to bottom deck their suspended Digimon, which I think is one of the best forms of removal because it denies them from accessing back from the trash or from the hand. Then I'm running 1 copy of Zudomon, which can help you strip away sources from your opponent's Digimon, which can help weaken them, making it easier for you to deal with them later on. Otherwise, it can also bounce the opponent's Digimon back to their hand. For level 6s, you normally want to run anywhere between 5 to 7 cards, and since I mentioned Metal Garurumon is my main focus, I'm running 4 copies of this guy right here. It has a removal effect just like Lilymon to bottom deck the opponent's Digimon, and the more different color Tamers you have on your side of the board, the higher level you can remove off of it as well. And then it has that secondary effect of allowing you to play out any level 4 or lower adventure trait Digimon back from the trash for free while attacking, and by ideally playing out a level 4, you can then Digivolve into another level 5 for free and then immediately setting up another body to create as much advantage as possible. Even though Metal Garurumon is the main focus of the deck as your offensive strategy, I still would recommend running at least 2 copies of Wargreymon Ace because when you bring this card out, it can help provide protection to your important Digimon on the board to prevent your opponents from removing it easily. Its secondary effect also provides you additional removal in the form of deletion while attacking and when Digivolving, which is not once per turn. That's it for our Digimon. Now let's talk about Tamers, which is actually a bit more of a sporadic number, so there's no answer to specifically how many you should normally run. Most decks I've seen run between 4 to 6, but that really comes down to the archetype and how it synergizes together, because there are some decks that out there that play absolutely no Tamers, and there are others on the other side that play a lot of them. And the Adventure archetype is actually one of those decks that play quite a number of Tamers. And let's go ahead and talk about Sora and Kari, which I'm running 2 copies of, along with Joe and Mimi, which I'm also running as a 2 of. They essentially do exactly the same thing. The reason why you want to run 2 copies of each is to diversify the colors on your side of the board so that you can gain a maximum amount of benefits and advantages when it comes to synergizing with your adventure trait Digimon cards. As for Matt and TK, I would actually suggest running 3 copies of this card because it provides you additional buffs to your offensive strategy, giving anything of your level 5s and your 6s rush. And that really comes with the combo with your Metal Garurumon. As you attack, you play out your level 4, Digivolve into your 5 for free. Because of this Tamer, you can attack with them to push for even more damage. Then, just to give the deck a little bit of defense, I decided to include 1 copy of Tai and Izzy just to give all our Digimon blockers just to stop the opponent's attacks. That's it for our tamers. Now let's talk about options. When it comes to the ratios for option cards, it really also depends on the archetype and the deck building strategy itself, but here are the best ones that I found from the Adventure Trait decks. The first one being Believe in Our Friendship, which I'm definitely running 4 copies of because it's also a searcher for the deck. Similar to Biomon, being able to reveal the top 3 cards and grabbing anything that is Adventure Trait is really important. Delay effect to help you gain 2 memory is where you can go for explosive combos as you can play more cards during your own turn. For the other option, Our Courage United, I'm running 2 copies of, which is also similar to Palmon, just to give us additional draw to find pieces and cards, and with its delay effect, it can help you have some counterability against your opponents when your level 5 or higher Digimon will ever be removed. This lets you play out another level 5 or higher, and immediately you can resolve their on-play effects to disrupt them and give you a bit of interactability during your opponent's turn. And that pretty much sums up the deck build of this archetype on how you want to attack as much as possible. If you guys want to see the full power and gameplay guides of this deck with the upgrades from BT21, definitely check out those videos on the channel as well. Make sure to share this video with one of your friends that are looking to get into the Digimon card game, and I really appreciate the support. Don't forget to grab the Destined Partners playmat and the status counters on the AVAULT store, which are perfect accessories to help assist you guys while playing the game. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.